Greetings, I am Lies and I use she, her.
And I am Scandal and I use they, them.
And let's play a game together.
All right.
Alrighty. I'm interested if it will create like a third sort of contained chapter in the way that it has with the first two. But also I'm really fascinated with this game. I want to know more about the God of Nothing.
I also would like to make a choice.
Yes.
Soon.
God, I know there are choices in this game. My only complaint at this point, like the minor critiques that we've mentioned, but my only complaint is I feel like there should be a choice earlier in the game.
Yes.
This is a lot before
because
you
if it's
choose
literally
something.
just a choice to decide what ending you're picking, that's sort of strange. I don't know. Like, again, there are long debates you can get into what makes a video game and what makes a video game at all. So it's like,
it feels odd.
This just feels peculiar.
So stupid. God of Nothing. Just leans back with the hand face.
Once on this hilltop, there rested a temple to a god.
No. An old
There
temple.
rested a old temple, old temple.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
there we go. I was like, why can't I not
You're
say
missing
that?
a word. It's okay.
I did. I said there rested an old temple to a god. Anyway,
okay.
Time and time again, the hilltop glistened with the god's desires. Year after year, the hilltop cries with only the winds to carry their message across the hills.
I also wonder what the god did. Like, we're sacrificing people to you, and for a really, really long time, and going, yeah, eventually there was peace once everyone was dead, but going, did it actually ever do anything during that time?
I mean, it did say that, it did. Their people were prosperous, they did great, like, it really did in the beginning. You do not remember?
I didn't make a connection that the god necessarily did that, so much as they just happened to be that way.
I mean,
right.
That is a good clarification to have, but I assume based on how one thing tends to follow another, you just assume that, but that might also be a lie.
For what reason do you come here? For there is no sanctuary, no happiness, and no peace within your home filled with uncertainty. For sanctuary, happiness, and peace granted by a god, you need an offering. A sacrifice. Whoosh. Wow. That was cool, actually.
Very cool.
I love how pretty this incredibly dark thing is, you know?
Yes.
That's
me, actually. Those whispers echoed through the centuries that passed like seconds, and they painted the hills with colors they had never seen. Prayers were sacrificed with each passing decade, and along with them, an immortal touch. Now, amidst the silence, only time carved at what was left of the temple.
Yeah.
Once beheld... Wow, I'm having a time reading today, excuse me.
Okay, just slow down a little, or I can... There.
Once beheld with centuries of passion and devotion, the temple had now whittled into 2 lone pillars amongst the ruins and pebbles. And nothing had lived there but the poppies that mysteriously grew so red and brilliant that carefully overtook everything on that hilltop like a blanket for the day's rest. And no one dares to travel to the pillars on Poppy Hills since those times long past. And yet...
Here's these 2 idiots.
Uh-huh.
I say that in the most affectionate way.
Oh, I said, and the 2 morons are here. And yet... After centuries of residing at this hilltop with nobody to pray to a forgotten god, 2 simpletons managed to make the melancholic scenery lively again.
The game also says, these 2 idiots.
Man, I hate them. I don't like them at all. They are I hate them so much.
Trash
Smashes
babies.
them. Stop it. I don't like you. Loves you affectionately. Also hates you. But also hates you because you love it. Perhaps it is because of the blathering that I became so annoyed at the rain and the sun that comes with them. I never feel like this when asleep, and I wish I could sleep like that once again. And yet, those rainy and sunny days keep coming like a wish or plea that continues to be answered, like a prayer that desperately wants to be answered. Within those answers, within that desperation, the noise and banter continue to dot the days the way the poppies cover the hilltop. Trite, trivial things made different only by the subject matter, like the ticks of a second and the rustle of a flower in the wind, and making paint.
Look at the eyeballs.
Because they're still talking.
The different expressions are amazing. Only you 2 could find such boring things to be interested in.
I make myself known and appear before them before hearing more of their dull drivel.
Excuse me, dear God. Dear me.
Dear
Holy
me.
crap. It's not boring, really. You're deafening him.
Defending.
Oh, you're defending him about making paint. How do you make watercolor paints?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I was just fascinated all of a sudden. I'm like, he makes his own watercolor paints. I've never known anyone to do that.
I mean, so I actually knew an artist who specifically talked about what they used was they used wet watercolor paints.
Okay.
So you have the tube version of watercolor paints. And they actually talked about how, so they're apparently an artist that at the time for the job that I worked at, they lived in like Arizona and they were like a big artist or something, and they actually directed me to Dick Blick, the website, because I actually didn't know many things at the time. And they were like, yeah, so I usually use watercolors more like oil paints. So it's really thick, very layered, very textured. And I was like, that's pretty cool, actually. I had not really heard of anybody actually using basically wet watercolor, pigmentation, as it were, as, just like that.
A billion up. See, and one of the people that I studied practiced art with, that I did independent art classes with, because he was an artist and my mom was like, hey, maybe you could teach my artistic kids some art, He used wet watercolor paints. I was going to say, but he didn't build them up like that, but he did use them without any shading. He used them in hard block colors. And most people are like,
oh, is this the person who did the horses with you?
Like, most people, like, what you want with watercolors is do, shading and, your washes and stuff like that. And he just did solid chunks of color, right? Anyway, but yeah, like, this person can't be using those because you don't use, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, but I've never seen anyone use the wet watercolors on a wet paper.
I have
because
no idea.
it runs immediately, but I guess, it could be a technique for sure. But yeah, I would be interested to know if how he makes his own paints. I would love to see that. All right. No, it's not that. It's just surprising to see him speak so intelligently about something. I've rarely ever seen that. Himbo. See? Even the immortal being thinks so.
I don't think they're agreeing. That being said,
the face.
That being said, would you like to come over to my home so I can show you how to make paint?
Oh, do you want to come to my house and make some paint?
Look at that!
I know, these are amazing faces. This feels like really traditional cartooning, and I kind of love it.
I love it. It looks awesome. I cannot move from this hilltop, and I cannot sleep after they frequently force me to awaken. My options are either to add to their noise in hopes of cancelling theirs, or suffer through the sentience I no longer want. What is awake? What is consciousness? Can a god even be conscious? Perhaps so, considering I possess memories of the hills in different lights and several darks, but I much prefer to be asleep to recall the sordid past.
Interesting.
Pain? Is this pain? Punishment? Perhaps so, considering the hills were not colors anyone could love, not even by me, the god who smeared those colors.
Ooh.
Perhaps I knew what those words originally meant, considering I tried to grant so many wishes in the past, but it has been so long that I have forgotten many things, and forgetting felt so nice.
Interesting. I prefer to stay asleep and remember the past, but forgetting the past felt amazing.
Yeah.
So it's like there must be different, you must have like different pieces of it that you're more attached to.
Maybe.
Or I just drift through what's left of it, and that's peaceful.
Right. I fell asleep because everyone around me had disappeared, and then I truly felt peace. I never needed to ponder such things like expectations and happiness, and I never needed to pretend that I wanted to be alive or conscious.
Oh, here's something wild. So you have a god that exists, and I often think of gods as more of forces than of people, but not necessarily because they aren't people, but because they're very different than us, because they don't have the same limitations or boundness to the physical flesh and such like that. So they just are a very different sort of creature in my mind.
Yeah.
And so this idea of that I was trying to grant, requests. I was trying to interact with what people's expectations and happiness and things were, but I was never actually designed to do that. I wasn't intended to be awake or interacted with. There was no intention to me. I just was. And then people decided that I was for doing a thing. And so I went, well, I can do it in this way, I suppose.
Right.
And imagine like a djinn kind of a character, if you will, the evil genie, as it were, evil in quotes, and going I grant your wish, but it comes out malicious. What if instead of it going, well, it's always interpreted in the worst possible way, it's just lack of context. I granted it based on whatever I could understand, but I don't know your culture, your desires, your wishes, your anything. So this was what I could understand.
Honestly, I always like that concept where people do try to break down sort of into it more and more, going, imagining if you were basically a creature that more or less only existed for 3 wishes, what knowledge would you have? Well, you have whatever knowledge you want, and it's like, but what if you literally have, because you have no desire, you have no motivation, all you've known is basically being non-existent, and then suddenly you exist only to grant wishes. What would you actually know? Would you comprehend anything? Like, knowledge is not the same thing as comprehension. Like, at all. People talk about, there's a difference between your wisdom, basically, and your intelligence. Well, and what I think most creatures are, like, as far as I can tell, is they might have a really super high, like, intelligence, but they have a really low wisdom.
So I was going to say, there's wisdom, intelligence, and knowledge, in my opinion.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
So your wisdom is how good you are at divining the connections between things. Your knowledge is literally what you know. And then your intelligence is how good you are at learning and understanding things.
Right.
And so it's like, so knowledge would be, I know what an egg is. Wisdom would be, it's alive, assume you have a fresh one, therefore I need to treat it gently and I need to figure out what its need is. Right. And intelligence would be I'm going to do the research to learn those things. Right. So those kinds of things, if that makes sense. And so yeah, it's 3 separate skills. But yeah, like, you've got these people, and even if your magical being is incredibly knowledgeable about certain things, are they from your culture? Do they know that when you wish for water, you mean not seawater? Do they know that people can't drink seawater? Like, they're not necessarily being malicious. Again, they don't know what you want.
There's also that thing, too, of going, like, you have different needs, and this god also talked about, like, I fall asleep and I just forget everything. It's like, well, yeah, because it doesn't apply to your reality. Why would you care? You literally are a force. Oh. You are not a... So, like the thing is I actually like that where people have talked about it, like, and where indigenous cultures in particular, they're not gods. They're forces, they're sort of spirits, they're things that are, they're not gods, stop calling them gods.
They're beings that are different than us and they live differently.
But it's also like they are nature, so it's weird when basically, as it were, white people, because mostly that's what happened with colonization, going like, keep calling them gods, and it's like, that's not what they are.
Because you perceive a god as a thing that, has force and power over the world and intentions. Yes. Like the Christian God very much has intentions and desires. And your spirits, your beings, your forces don't necessarily have a desire so much as they exist. Yeah. The wind doesn't necessarily desire to blow, it just is.
Yeah, it's just the force That's what of it does. Wind blowing.
In the same way that you may not desire to breathe, it's just what you do. And going, but the wind blows, it's like, you breathe.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, I think that's neat. And I kind of love how this particular text and the one preceding it sort of breaks down I don't have to ponder things like expectations and happiness, which is what happens when the humans or people came to interact with you.
They force those ideals on you.
And you have to think about what it is they're after, because they continue to push at it being after it and going, well, you weren't satisfied yet, so what actually is it? Right. And sitting there going, this thing keeps going after me, what does it want?
Right. But I wanted to be alive or conscious. I have been alive, conscious, for many millennia, and have seen the different starry nights twirl and wobble so many times that they congeal into the same thoughts that echo into the sky.
Nod to the starry night swipe. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. I imagined it was on purpose.
There it was. No, I know it was, but like they mentioned it in the game there. I think that's charming.
It's actually diegetic.
Yes.
What was a smile? What was laughter? How do you create such things? I knew how to create and exchange destruction and despair, and I can only do it unto others.
I wonder if the god learned I knew how to create destruction and despair only because that's what people described the god as creating.
Right.
Because, again, those sound like very human terms. So you have this sort of force just existing. You are crying out in its space that you need something so much that it's like just like being disturbed by the modern noise of the painter and the researcher going, what is this noise? How do I engage with it? And it's going, you can hear me. I need this thing. Mm-hmm. And then as they engage with you more and more and you solve whatever it is.
You became the voice that answered back because it was so irritating, basically. You eventually, like, you just were like, this thing keeps poking, prodding, yelling at me, whatever, and it's this whole string of voices crying out for something to happen. Mm-hmm. So I became the something to respond to that.
And irritating doesn't have to be like, I'm annoyed so much as I now interact. It's like the way a fly can be irritating you, so you wave your hand.
Right.
And that's the only action you take necessarily. I say, but yeah, I think that's really interesting.
What does desire feel like? What drives you to keep existing? The darkening sky asked.
Oh, there's another voice.
I don't know, I answer. I wish I was asleep. Don't you want to know? It asked.
But I like how it's the god talking to themselves about it, you know?
Yeah. And then I fell asleep. The sky leaves my sight and becomes empty in my vision. Thank goodness. I hope the sky stays empty forever. Perhaps one day I could become just like it, non-existent and truly empty.
Whoa.
But over the centuries, the more I look at the horizon, the more I realize I can never be as empty as I desired. If I were to be one with the sky, then I would have to be part of either the rain or the sun.
And the clouds and all of it.
And perhaps it is because I have spent too much time with those two mortals. But a consciousness I never dwelled upon began to rise from that horizon. And time, as it always did for several hundred years, waited for a desire.
Okay, but I love how you have the petals ostensibly being moved by the wind, but also the ones in the background almost being like sparks.
Yeah.
That's really pretty. Ooh.
And that desire, for some reason, are figures amongst the poppies. And for some reason, I reach out to a figure.
That looks amazing, though. Wait.
Oh, you pick one.
Oh, God. And it's a timed choice. But it's a long timer. The purple one's a lot louder. As far as, like, speaking, yelling, and stuff like that.
Sure, whatever. The purple. I'm like, I have no idea. But a desire from a god? Just who would grant it, then?
I had no idea that would be a choice. That's very interesting. Also, is that how the god sees them?
No idea.
If indeed they do see?
Towards the skyline where the hills of poppies lie, the clouds roll in and obscure the sky. Droplets fell soon enough, and I feel a chill and calm I rarely feel. It almost feels relaxing, enough that I could slumber the days away. Almost. And to my dismay and my surprise, it is only the researcher that comes up the hill. He does not wear his recognizable scowl, but instead wears a face that had been softened, enough to make me believe that this was a similar stranger.
Oh.
But under his umbrella, he opens his bag and pulls out the book he typically holds. He opens it to a specific blank page, and I know this is indeed the researcher himself. Taking out the scissors, I had seen him hold...
He's finally going to cut the flowers. Something happened.
Taking out the scissors I had seen him hold once before, he kneels down before some group of poppies and pauses, as if deliberating whether he wanted to further his research or not.
My, this is different, researcher. So you decided to not honor his wishes.
I appear before him, with curiosity driving me more than the desire to sleep. He does not turn to face me, still staring at the groups of poppies.
Stow off, God. Neither you nor him can tell me what to do. And what of the painter? Where is he?
His answer was some facsimile, of a laugh, or a puff of a derisive one, at least. Through emotions as smooth as experience, he places the scissors back in his bag and stares down the subtle grooves where the pen met previous pages. Well, that's really pretty.
Something idiotic happened, and I assume he's home right now.
The researcher stands up, not minding the mud on his knees and his white woolen socks. He does not turn around to face me, instead still staring at the empty pages and pretending he is not fully listening to me.
He usually comes with you. I've never seen the two of you apart. Given that you arrived after he was here, that is correct. You would have seen the painter alone by himself, but never the researcher. And only that first time. Ha! Is that what you think, then? Am I wrong, though?
Silence fills the rainy air as he stares down at the empty book, purple pen in one hand and nowhere near a page. I say nothing, and for a while he stays silent until finally muttering in a joking manner.
You'd think that after all the research I've done in all my years, I would be satisfied with the answers I've found. All the times I spent pouring my time and effort into the information that could benefit historians, all I get is a scoff. I've gotten so tired of their jeers that I just stopped talking to them and poured myself into research. It did me a lot better than listening to those fools. Fools!
Foolish fools!
Foolish fools!
Foolish fools.
Every time I ever read Fools, Disney villain everywhere.
Immediately.
And even now, I've never needed to consider the needs of others. Not for a long time. Not even now. And I'm not going to start caring either, because all it's resulted in is disappointment after disappointment. I'm saying you've been hurt before and you have commitment issues.
Yes.
That is what I'm hearing.
I say nothing, and neither does he. He quietly turns to previous pages that had already been filled with lines of writing, however long ago that may have been to him.
I told myself to screw them and their ignorance and pursue the things that give my life meaning. But what can I do when the things that give my life meaning means nothing in the long run? All my research amounted to was the realization that existence isn't fair, and that most ideas and concepts are best left inside your head. At least then I can covet my ideas and hard work without anyone's opinion marring what I put my entire heart into. I thought you said he showed up looking really peaceful and at ease. This sounds really like resigned or set in a purpose.
It sounds like also something happened. But basically, like, you look really peaceful. But because something happened and you've kind of just been like, right, this is what I expect.
Again, resigned, resolves kind of thing. But also I'm like, it could be it's very much the God's interpretation.
Yeah, and they don't...
That's what your face looks like. But going, what do you know of facial expressions anyway?
Right. He then said nothing, and neither did I. And for a while, he did nothing, as did I. And suddenly, through the constant drizzle of the falling rain, the researcher then busts out laughing.
What's so funny? God! What? What the hell am I even doing? Why the hell am I spilling my stupid heart to you? You can't relate to me. You're God! And you claim there's nothing you can do anyways. So what the hell am I even doing here? If you have no one to talk to the forces themselves. Talk to the sky, the wind, the ground, the poppies. I was wondering the same. Are you expecting me to do something about your problem?
He expels another bark of a hearty laugh before turning around to sneer at me.
Haughty.
That's what I said, haughty laugh.
You said hearty.
Oh, I said
okay.
haughty. Haughty, because you thought I said hearty, but I went haughty.
It's okay, I get it. Ha! Yes, absolutely. Ask the sacrificial, bloodthirsty God to help me with my stupid problems. What a fantastic solution!
What a fantastic!
And you only need what? An arm, a leg, some blood, a sandwich. Oh, I need all of those, so I'm not willing to trade right now. Thank you very much. What can you even do, anyways? For all my research I've conducted about you in this place, it doesn't seem like anything good happens when anyone collaborates with you. You're shit at this, by the way.
I wonder about what else he had researched about me and what these ruins used to be. I am fully aware of the atrocities I had caused, inadvertently or not, but hearing about myself and my previous actions through another point of view tends to put me to sleep. However, I am curious about what he knows of me, but before I could reply, he grimaces and replies with disgust.
Actually, no. Never mind. Don't tell me. I don't want to entertain the thought. And why not? You can be told events from the thing that caused them in the first place. I thought researchers value that information. But then you'd curse me in exchange for information. That's usually how it works with beings like you, isn't it?
Before I could reply, he chuckles and looks up to the stormy sky as if he were trying to reaffirm something. To whom or what, I truly do not know, but he speaks with renewed determination.
I love the rain, just the patchy, strikes of rain. I know damn well that a wish, even one without a catch or one offered from an evil god or whatever, can't solve my problems. It's too easy. Perhaps if I was desperate, but I'm not. I'll keep trying until I succeed with my goals, even if I have to do it by myself.
With those words and the landscape growing darker under the continuous downpour, he stormed steadily down the hill alone.
I loved the little crunching sound. It was really soft, but the crinkly was good.
While I stare at the purple umbrella disappearing into the horizon, I wonder what prompted him to come up the hills if all he was going to do is complain and do nothing.
Sometimes. I'm not so much one of those people, but sometimes all people want to do is talk. Mm-hmm. They just want to get it out. They don't want feedback. They don't want solutions. They just want to vent out the feeling and the ideas in a verbal way and then proceed.
For the next few days, it was the researcher alone who came up the rainy hills. I have yet to see the painter, but his absence is most likely from the non-stop downpour that would ruin his painting.
It's just continued to rain.
Sometimes, out of curiosity, I try to inquire what the researcher is doing, for all I ever see him do is stare at the pillars, the poppies, and the white pages in his book. But he always ignores me, each time claiming how he does not want my help and how he would get his own happiness by his own hands and make things right.
Damn it.
But each time he came up the hill on those different days, the anger and determination in his eyes wash out a little by the time he leaves. But he would repeat how he did not want my help, and that everything would get better. It has to get better.
He's also using you and your ability to listen as basically a social outlet, as sort of talk therapy almost, just but specifically as a vent. Mm-hmm. As an echo chamber, as a hotline to scream into.
Right.
As I say, in a really interesting way, suggesting that, again, as he has described, he is completely distant from anybody in his life.
Yeah.
And the only real connection and potentially even friend, if you will, that he has is the painter themselves.
Mm-hmm. Until one day, he came up the rainy hills without his purple umbrella. Does he want me to respond? To ask why the determination had faded from his eyes? I have no clue or care about his problems or why he cares about them, so there was nothing I truly could say. He and I are silent, and I wait to see if he will speak first. But on seeing him before the pillars and poppies, I realized. Perhaps I had realized this some time ago, but the clarity to a desire I thought I left behind is so apparent, too apparent, that to let this slip by me would be more maddening than those years I spent asleep. I try to keep my voice steady as I break the silence between us.
You want to know something, researcher? I know you don't want my input, and you much prefer to find things out yourself, but I figure this bit of information could help you out a little. You know, you could take the poppies whenever you desired, right? I never stopped you from taking them, because it's not like I could stop you anyways. Even gods have limits in what they can do. Our powers are only as powerful as the faith humans have, and are deemed only important as the sacrifices humans need to make. So go ahead. Take some poppies. I can't stop you even if I wanted to, and taking them causes no consequence to me or you. I love the implication that the poppies are all completely eternal. That they're not really like these growing, dying, changing seasonal things. They're just there.
Which is actually really frightening in its own way. You really like, these are fake, but no, they're real. They exist, but nothing comes to this hill ever. And they said nothing else lives here but poppies.
And they keep growing. So you get the cycles they have, but they never go away. They never die off in winter. They never get waterlogged. They never anything.
Right, they just exist. He looks down to a group of poppies, staring at them intently. And all he did was stare at them. The researcher makes no motion to snip them like he had before, and this causes me to scoff at how predictable he is.
I see that you covet the painter's desire more than my own truth.
Unfortunately, there is no more, but I appreciate you put that in there.
Oh.
Like, that would break the sentence, for sure. Like, there's a more missing.
You're right, it is missing. I just read it in. My bad, predictive reading. But there we are.
At the mention of him, the researcher glares back at me with a fury I've never seen him possess in the times he has come up the hill.
Ooh. I don't give a shit about him and what he desires. Why should I, when he won't even return my own... Did you confess?
Upon realizing what he was about to say, his mouth clamps shut in distress and turns towards the group of poppies.
No, I don't care about him. It's just...
His voice wobbles slightly, with the sharpness and composure he had always possessed struggling to stay at the forefront of his crumbling demeanor.
I just don't know what to do anymore. I've done all I can with my research, with my colleagues, with him, with everything. The poppies don't matter at this point. Nothing does. Nothing ever will, no matter how hard I try.
He pauses, looking down at the book in his hands, which had been opened to the same blank pages he had not written in.
And is now soaked.
The rain had already ruined the pages he had previously wrote in, so the purple ink washes continue to spread and obscure the words he wanted to say.
Damn. But also, thank you for realizing that so many times there's weather going on and they hold this thing that would get ruined by it. Nope, be fine.
Yep, be fine.
At least, what with you being a god and all, you were able to bear witness to things humanity has forgotten to write down. Better than a human whose words and thoughts mean nothing to another human.
He smirks sadly as he says this in a whisper before falling silent. However, desire threatens to make me falter, so I try to keep my voice the same steady tone as it always has been.
I can't solve your problems or grant wishes, but I can at least give you something that could help you.
The sad smile disappears from his face, replaced with a slight spark of hope before it turns to skepticism.
What? So you've suddenly become a kind-hearted god? It's not a kind exchange. It's one of equivalence, where we both gain what we want.
But we're going to find out what they want
in the next one!
Hey, so thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and also share our videos. Your support has been fantastic, and we appreciate any amount of help, which, again, no obligation, but, like, it does save us from the algorithm a little bit, however it freaking works, who knows. And then also, please feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi and our Patreon and our Twitch. We've also got Instagram, we've also got Tumblr. We've got all those links in the description down below if you want to go check those out. And we'd love to see you at any of those locations. And I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies.
And it was great playing with you. Bye!